Headlines TV, good evening and welcome. The latest news is headlines. China defends ally Pakistan after Trump criticism. Government won't bring law to ban triple talaq. Prime Minister Modi urges young CEOs to work with government for development. Trump calls for India help in Afghanistan after warning Pakistan ignoring China. Not AI-ADMK merger, but expulsion of Sasikala led TTV Dinakaran on revolt path. The news in detail. China defended its ally Pakistan on Tuesday after US President Donald Trump said the United States could no longer be silent about Pakistan's safe havens for militants and warned it had much to lose by continuing to harbor terrorists. Asked about Trump's speech, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying said Pakistan was on the front line in the struggle against terrorism and had made great sacrifices and important contributions in the fight. She also added that, "We believe that the international community should fully recognize Pakistan's anti-terrorism. We are happy to see Pakistan and the United States carry out anti-terror cooperation on the basis of mutual respect and work together for security and stability in the region and world." China and Pakistan consider each other all-weather friends and have close diplomatic, economic and security ties. China has its own security concerns in the region, in particular any links between militants in Pakistan and Afghanistan and Islamist groups China blames for violence in its far western region of Xinjiang. Trump on Monday committed the United States to an open-ended conflict in Afghanistan, signaling he would dispatch more troops to America's longest war and vowing a fight to win. Trump insisted that others, the Afghan government, Pakistan, India and NATO allies, step up their own commitment to resolving the 16-year conflict, but he saved his sharpest words for Pakistan. Senior US officials warned security assistance for Pakistan could be reduced unless the nuclear-armed nation cooperated more in preventing militants from using safe havens in its soil. Critics say Pakistan sees militants such as Taliban as useful tools to limit the influence of old rival India. Pakistan denies allowing militants refuge on its territory, saying it takes action against all groups. China has warned that there will be utter chaos if its troops enter India on the pretext that Indian border infrastructure poses a threat to Beijing, while calling New Delhi's objection to its building a road in Doklam ridiculous and vicious. The Chinese Foreign Ministry termed India's argument that India is building a road in Doklam on the border posed a threat to New Delhi absolutely ridiculous and vicious. China will never allow any country or individual to infringe upon its territorial sovereignty, the ministry said. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying said, "The Indian side illegally crossed the boundary on the excuse of Chinese road building. The reason is ridiculous, vicious, and the facts are clear." In response to Home Minister Rajnath Singh's remark that India had never been an aggressor and has had no ambitions to expand its border, Hua responded that China loves peace and firmly upholds peace. At the same time, we will safeguard our territorial integrity and sovereignty. We will allow no country or individual to infringe upon China's territorial sovereignty. She asked India to pull back its troops from Doklam to resolve the crisis. Hua added that, "We have said many times that prerequisite basis for the settlement of the trespass is the unconditional withdrawal of the personnel and equipment from the Indian side. So we urge the Indian side to take concrete actions and make positive moves to correct its wrongdoing." India and Chinese troops have been locked in a standoff since June at Doklam in the Sikkim section of the Bhutan-China border. This is the longest standoff between the two armies since 1987, when they faced a similar situation at Somodong-Chu Valley in Arunachal Pradesh. It all began when Indian troops stopped Chinese troops from building a road in Doklam, citing the disputed status of the territory. Doklam is claimed by Bhutan, which has protested against Chinese road building. China says the construction of the road is just since Doklam has been Chinese territory since ancient times. New Delhi backs Bhutan's claims and sees a Chinese road in Doklam as a threat because the region is very close to the Siliguri corridor, which connects India's northeast with the rest of the country. The government does not plan to bring any legislation to ban triple talaq, as the 5-judge Supreme Court bench by a majority verdict has held instant divorce as unconstitutional and illegal, a top government source said. There was no requirement of legislation to implement this order, the functionary added, and pointed out that anyone persisting with the practice of instant talaq could be prosecuted under domestic violence laws. Such a violator could be sent to jail if a woman approached the police for harassment on these grounds, and the SC order would act as a deterrent, seems to be the view of the government in the wake of the verdict. India of 2017 is not the India of 1986-87. The leadership of Narendra Modi is not the same as that of Rajiv Gandhi, Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad said, referring to the Shabano judgment of the apex court, which then the Rajiv Gandhi government, enjoying absolute majority in parliament, overturned in 1986, diluting rights of Muslim women for maintenance on the grounds of triple talaq. The government, he said, strongly backed the judgment and would consider the issue in a structured manner. He said this was the beginning of the fight for equality for Muslim women. Prasad said the issue was not of religion and religious practices, it was of gender justice, gender dignity and gender equality. It's a great dawn for women's empowerment. We need to understand that 22 countries have regulated triple talaq, abolished it, or laid down stringent preconditions for its exercise, but India being a secular country, it was insulated by this change, the law minister said. Terming the SC judgment a great legal and moral victory for women in India, the minister said he had the support of PM Modi, who wanted the government to take a strong stand in the courts on this issue. Prasad pointed to the judgment of Justice Kurian Joseph, saying that what was held to be bad in the Quran could not be good in Shariat, adding that the government had stressed that several Muslim majority nations had done away with or restricted triple talaq. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urged young CEOs on Tuesday to become partners of the government and suggest ideas which could be used as inputs for policy making. Urging the young corporate leaders to adapt to change, Modi said they should think of revamping their gift policy during festivals, including khadi and innovative gifts that can help the poor. In his second interaction with young CEOs as part of the Champions of Change, Transforming India through G2B Partnership Series organized by the government's think tank NITI Agyog, Modi sought innovative ideas to usher in change. We want to move towards a less cash society. I want a partnership on how to do this, he said in a speech to about 200 young CEOs. You are my team and we need to work together to take India forward, PM told CEOs, adding that he intends to have an institutional mechanism where he can have frequent interactions. 6 groups of young CEOs made presentations before PM on the themes such as Make in India, doubling farmers' income, world-class infrastructure, cities of tomorrow, reforming the financial sector, and New Delhi by 2022. Citing the example of waste to wealth entrepreneurs, PM said this can help achieve objectives of Swachh Bharat and clean environment. He said, aim of entrepreneurs and business should be to provide products which solve simple problems faced by people. Modi said the people's participation is an important element of governance. Similarly, NITI Aayog's initiative is an attempt at CEO's partnership with the government and is aimed at enhancing their participation towards welfare of the people and the nation. Highlighting the importance of value addition in agriculture, Modi said a multi-pronged approach is essential for achieving objectives such as doubling of agricultural incomes. Emphasizing the importance of food processing, he said lack of infrastructure is leading to huge losses in the agriculture sector. PM said the government has taken a string of decisions that have brought about fundamental transformation. He cited the example of the government e-marketplace (GEM) portal to show how small traders are competing successfully in supplies to the government. He said rupees 1,000 crore has been transacted through GEM so far and 28,000 suppliers have contributed to this platform. The United States under President Trump on Tuesday implicitly recognized India's historic ties, stakes and engagement in Afghanistan while putting Pakistan on notice for fomenting terrorism in the region under nuclear cover. Trump also reversed his earlier view, calling for a total US withdrawal from the troubled country, saying although his original instinct was to pull out a hasty withdrawal would create a vacuum for terrorists, largely supported by Pakistan. In a significant recasting of American policy for South Asia following a lengthy review with his generals and strategists, Trump invited India to help us more in Afghanistan after warning Pakistan against harboring terrorist organizations and sheltering terrorists and criminals. In fact, Pakistan got hammered as Trump just stopped short of directly calling it a terrorist sponsor. Pakistan often gives safe haven to agents of chaos, violence and terror. The threat is worse because Pakistan and India are two nuclear-armed states whose tense relations threaten to spiral into conflict. Trump observed in speech to the nation from an army base in Virginia, outlining the latest US policy for the region. We can no longer be silent about Pakistan's safe havens for terrorist organizations, the Taliban, and other groups that pose a threat to the region and beyond, he added. While openly shredding Pakistan for its export of terrorism, Trump also highlighted India's role, including his future expectations from India, albeit in a curious way. We appreciate India's important contributions to stability in Afghanistan, but India makes billions of dollars in trade with the US, and we want them to help us more with Afghanistan, especially in the area of economic assistance and development. Trump said, suggesting greater Indian inputs in Afghanistan without a direct mention of military contribution. Significantly, Trump's speech also made no mention of Pakistan's patron China, which has been trying to make inroads into Afghanistan, or of Russia, Washington's erstwhile rival whose invasion of Afghanistan in 1978 threw the whole region into turmoil. In fact, hours after Trump's speech, administration officials announced sanctions against Chinese and Russian entities and individuals for fostering North Korea's nuclear and ballistic missile efforts that were also supported by Pakistan. While some US analysts said Trump's speech on Afghanistan and South Asia policy was muscular but vague on specific details, American officials indicated the president would direct some 4,000 additional troops to Afghanistan to add to the 8,500 already in the region in what could be a first surge under his administration. The big question in New Delhi, though, is whether India will be asked to commit troops, something Trump addressed only indirectly and implicitly. Opinion on this is divided in New Delhi, with only a small section of India's strategic community tilting in this direction, while opposition to the idea is vocal. Ahead of Trump's tough policy turnaround, US officials, including Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, phoned leaders of Afghanistan, India and Pakistan to brief them on the outcome. A mortified Pakistan, publicly called out as a terrorism-sponsoring country, as usual went into denial mode, insisting that Islamabad would do whatever is in its national interest. As Tamil Nadu Chief Minister EPS and his deputy OPS were shaking hands for an AI-ADMK merger, Organizational Secretary Vaidhalingam had said a General Council meeting will be called for to ascertain the future of Sasikala in the party. More than the merger, his comments lighted the fuse, leading to events which are now shaking the foundation of the EPS government. 19 MLAs led by Vetrivel and Thanga Thamizselvan visited Jayalalitha Memorial on Monday night, and the next day they met the governor, submitting letters stating their withdrawal of support to CM Edappadi K. Palaniswamy. Of course, Thanga Thamizselvan later clarified that they knew governor cannot help in the situation but just wanted to highlight their point. We are not happy with what EPS did. He has brought in the group which opposed the government and tried to break the party. We no longer support him, he said. The drama did not end with as the MLAs left for Mahabalipuram, had lunch for nearly 19 minutes at Delhi Daba in ECR and left for Puducherry. The MLAs will stay in the resort for at least 4 days, enough to give multiple panic attack to EPS. TTB Dinakaran did not react for the whole day. Amidst this chaos, DMK Working President M.K. Stalin wrote a letter to Governor seeking him to direct EPS to prove his majority on the floor. Any inordinate delay in asking the Chief Minister to prove his majority in the instant case will pave way for continuance of an unconstitutional government and will destabilize democratic norms and precedents, he cautioned the governor. Yet TTV faction MLAs assured that their vendetta is only against EPS, who was chosen by Sasikala as the CM, and not against the government. But when asked if they would support DMK on a floor test, they didn't have an answer. As TTB faction MLAs were on their way towards Puducherry, CM EPS and OPS allegedly had a discussion on the turn of events. Nothing coherent was derived from the discussion, and so they have reportedly decided to pacify the MLAs by all means. A woman in Los Angeles won a hefty amount on Monday in a lawsuit against Johnson & Johnson, which claimed that its iconic baby powder can cause ovarian cancer when used regularly for feminine hygiene. The jury attending the case has ordered Johnson & Johnson to pay $417 million, approximately rupees 267 crores, to Californian Eva Echevarria, who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2007. In her lawsuit, Echevarria alleged that Johnson & Johnson failed to adequately warn its consumers about the talcum powder's potential cancer risks. The verdict in case of Echevarria's lawsuit marks the largest sum awarded in a series of talcum powder lawsuit verdicts against Johnson & Johnson in courts around the US. Echevarria claimed that she used Johnson & Johnson's baby powder on a daily basis from the 1950s till 2016. According to her lawsuit, she developed ovarian cancer as a proximate result of the unreasonably dangerous and defective nature of the talcum powder. The evidence in the case included internal documents from several decades that showed the jury that Johnson & Johnson knew about the risks of talc and ovarian cancer. The verdict came after a St. Louis, Missouri jury in May awarded $110.5 million to a Virginia woman who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2012. She had blamed her illness on her use of the company's talcum powder containing products for more than 40 years. Johnson & Johnson spokesperson Carol Goodrich said in a statement that the company will appeal the jury's decision. She said that while the company sympathizes with women suffering from ovarian cancer, scientific evidence supports the safety of Johnson's baby powder. Goodrich said that Johnson & Johnson is also preparing to defend itself and its baby powder at upcoming trials in the US. India's biggest hope for a maiden gold medal at the BWF World Championships, PV Sindhu began her campaign with a straight games 21-16, 21-14 win over South Korea's Kim Hyo-min on Tuesday. Sindhu, who has been a two-time bronze medalist in the World Championships and also won the silver medal in the 2016 Rio Olympics, made a bright start to her quest after getting a bye in the opening round. The Hyderabad girl started the first game in full form as she won 8 points on the trot to take a big lead. Her opponent though clawed back to make it 5-10. Sindhu though consolidated her lead and made it 17-10 before closing the game at 21-16. The second game also followed a similar pattern, with Sindhu taking an early lead, but the gap wasn't as big as the first game. But the Indian ace took a big lead late in the game to finally seal the lead at 21-14 to win the match in straight games. She will next take on the winner of the match between Russia's Evgenia Kosetskaya and Hong Kong's Cheung-Yang Gi. And that's all for this news. To watch more, please do subscribe Headlines TV. Thank you.